So this is your last one, right?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty good one to end on. I mean, Jesus Christ. After a ton of teasers and hints from GM, the ZR1 Corvette is finally here. It's not surprising it's the most powerful Corvette ever, but we didn't know just how far they were going to take it. This car has 1,064 horsepower. We shot some video with a few relatively complete pre-production versions of it, but we also got to walk around a full-size cutaway with the vehicle's engineers, including Tadge Juechter, who after leading the Corvette team for years is finally retiring the ZR1 as his last project. Talking through the whole car with him and the rest of the team was really, really cool, and we're presenting the whole discussion here.
Yeah, he didn't touch on it very much, but when the Z06 came out, people were calling this the wishbone, and then didn't understand this sort of extra piece hanging off the back. People didn't understand the purpose of it, but we already knew we wanted to share this quarter panel, and we knew we wanted better brake cooling for this car. And we've done the computational fluid dynamics, aerodynamics, and we knew this was a really good spot to take in relatively cool air. You got laminar flow, it's attached, and so a shape like this sucks that in with enough power to cool the brakes. So that's part of the earlier car telegraphing what the later car is going to have on it.
So new pistons.
It's lower compression ratio.
Yeah.
Boost.
I was going to say, if you didn't knock that down.
Hollowing this out.
Okay. So is this a machined LT6 piston, or is it a whole new forging?
This is LT6.
Okay.
This is whole new, right?
Okay.
Correct. No, it's a completely unique forging. Because if you flip it over, the pin boss structure,
right, the big end,
is normally completely different as well. So unique forging, unique machining, obviously. Chamber. And then, it's pretty
looks like a socket.
Solid.
Like a socket.
The rod.
There's my
That's why I had to have the pins here, because you tell somebody, it's,
right, it's a
4
couple millimeters thicker.
But you pick them up in your hands,
oh my
and you're
God.
like, okay, there's more here.
Yeah, beefed up.
Yes.
So this is all CNC ported from the factory?
So same as LT6, full CNC porting.
Okay. Wow.
The chamber, as I said, is very different, right? There's
Yeah.
a lot more volume, especially in this area. To get the CR down, I don't think I said in there. We're dropping the CR from 12.5 to 9.8.
9.8, wow.
This
Much more boost
volume.
friendly.
Well, if you told me that, I would have known it was closer to 1,000.
Yeah. And then actually the piston sits lower. It's hard to see. It's just short of 2 millimeters shorter, so the piston actually sits lower as it relates to the combustion chamber.
So when you're measuring displacement, does that affect the displacement no matter way?
The stroke is still the same.
Okay.
It's
Left
just
area.
Gotcha.
BDC and TDC is both shifting
Okay,
down.
I'm unfamiliar with how that's calculated.
That's the one thing that's the only reason that I didn't say the crank is common with LT6.
Right.
The counterweights are machined a little different.
Okay.
And that's just so they don't whack the piston.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting.
It makes it a little trickier to balance because there isn't much counterweight there, so we didn't do it on the 6 at the higher speed. So it is a unique crank, but like 99% of it is common with LT6 other than that machining.
You even got the Gemini and the turbo, huh? That's
Gotta
nice.
have the rockets.
Yeah. I know you guys like those rockets. Let me tell you, we're learning that.
Did you know he was talking about the material that we use? What's it called?
Mar.
Mar.
Had you heard of that before?
It's that household name.
Yes.
I'd never heard of it before.
No,
Inconel, I know.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was
Inconel
like-
X.
Yeah,
I thought it was
that's
going to
like
be
the best of the best.
This is
Yeah,
like
right.
if Inconel's not good enough for you.
Okay, yeah, you can't get this. You can get, you can get Inconel 3D printed from China these days. It's old news. All right, I'm a Mar guy now. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's impressive. So, twin turbos, and they're big twins. I mean, so these are single scroll. Why not go twin scroll?
Had to go with the peak power we wanted and the speed range we wanted.
Yeah.
You just can't get the throughput through a dual scroll.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you manage, the negatives with the monos is you get the big power,
Right.
but you got to manage the big turbo and the turbo lag, right? So for all the things I talked about, right? Integrated housings, get them close. Electric wastegates, so you can do some trick things dynamically with it.
Yeah.
And then being able to mount the charger, cooling, and everything else directly on the engine.
Yeah.
All that air path is minimized, so you have less air to compress.
So the hot side is cast as a part of the exhaust manifold. Is that true?
It's
Did you
all
say
right
that?
here.
Oh, I
So-
see. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, the manifold as it comes from the head to the turbine housing is all one cast stainless steel piece. So once again, you get that turbine wheel real close to those exhaust ports.
Yeah.
And it helps for vehicle packaging that too. You can really suck everything in.
I can imagine.
next to the engine.
I mean, with turbos this big, there's no way, and with dual overhead cams, there's no way you could fit two, because the only other turbocharged engine you guys have, or V8 you guys have done, was a hot V configuration. And I guess it just didn't work this time around.
Too much turbo?
The only motivation to do a hot V is, as Tadge was saying, because the engine's in the front. You can't fit turbos on the side of it between wheels that turn. So that's really the only thing that's motivating. It motivated us and motivates the other OEMs to do hot Vs is just packaging. And with the mid-engine archecture, we have the room down here on the sides.
So my mental model when we were talking about doing this is this thing's just going to be a grenade. It's going to be nothing, then bam, you're going to get the boost. And we didn't want that.
You didn't want
all
that?
the way through the program. No, we wanted it drivable. You'll see when you drive it. It's surprisingly.
No, that's going to be above my pay grade. That one. There's no way I'm getting invited to that.
Above everybody's pay grade.
Well, I thought Z06 was. That was just like you're just kind of along for the ride in that car. It's like, man, it's like, Oliver Gavin driving. It's like, this is why this guy won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yeah. It's like I could not.
Wait till
Can't even imagine.
Him in this thing.
Yeah, no, I think I'll.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Is this? Tell me about this intake manifold too. So
it's blue.
It's.
That's the level of my.
It's got a very nice Italian paint job on it.
There's no window this time. You have the split window, which I mean, geez, that's the first time since the 60s. Yeah, that's been back.
We only did that once.
Yeah.
Our lesson.
Yeah. You've been saving it. That's in the back pocket.
Like, all right. We use a split window. And it's been on the race car.
Right.
C8R, and nobody said anything. Hey, that looks like a split window, but.
Yeah, between a production car and the race car, it's like, this is really cool. So you developed this blue color that matches the wheels over there?
Edge blue.
Edge blue.
Edge blue, yeah.
Great, that's great. So you have port and direct injection.
Correct. They call it the new nomenclature, it's a PDI system.
PDI.
So port direct injection.
Gotcha.
And we really use that because unlike in the LT5, the previous generation, the port system was only really used at the top end. We're blending the two throughout the operating range, depending on the needs of the given speed and load that we're at.
And does the LT6 have cylinder deactivation or?
No.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not going to be part of that in this. It might be a little tricky with 8 injectors.
Yeah, and the way the valve train is set up, being a mechanical finger follower system for rigidity and high speed stability, the added complexity of cylinder deactivation just wouldn't be in the scope of what these engines are meant to do.
I don't think the ZR1 customer would really appreciate that.
No.
They can take or leave cylinder deactivation.
Appreciate it on the small block.
Well, I didn't know that on the C7. If you have an auto, it just comes in and out like whenever.
Yeah.
But I have a stick, and it only comes on in Eco, which I like. But
it's harder to do the integration job because you get a torque spike.
Right.
So we wanted to make you can get it if you want it, but we felt a lot of people might not like it. They'd rather not.
Yeah, there's certain situations where it's like, oh yeah, that just came on.
Yeah. I didn't mind once you get used to it and you're going on a
and you're getting
drive or something. Okay.
And you're getting 38 miles per gallon. Yeah.
Right.
Then
it's real. It's something.
Oh, awesome. So between front engine and rear engine, you say you got so much more space, but there's still a lot of stuff to package back there. You got all your subframe, suspension, all that stuff.
But you do have width, even though the tires are wide. They're set wide, and so between the inside face and the sidewalls, you still have about that much room.
Yeah. So these heads are completely different. You said, and they're different just to optimize.
Different castings. I said the
completely different castings.
The general structure of them is the same, but we had to completely reconfigure the ports and the combustion chamber.
Is the dry sump oil tank different between LT6 and LT7?
Oil tank's common. The oil pump assembly along the side.
So the oil tank is common.
So if you but that's the other thing, talking about hiding in plain sight.
Right, exactly.
Look at an LT6, there's a weird area that isn't
Why is that like that?
And why would we sculpt the tank like that? And nobody ever asked looking at it, but it clearly
it's amazing how many places on the car, not just propulsion, it's all around the car where we had accommodations for other stuff that people didn't catch us.
Well,
it would be hard to guess, though.
To be fair, I learned this car was turbocharged when I walked in this room, so it was kept pretty tight.
Yeah, even the whole oil pump assembly that goes down the side of it that has the scavenge pumps in that. The 7th scavenge bay is in every LT6. We just didn't put gears in it. We just put spacers.
Interesting.
So we were ready to go with it.
I was telling Tad, I should have brought my circular saw to the Z06 launch. This would have been in there. I would have found all that stuff.
Well, actually, the Z06 cutaway engine, if you look at it, the sections we
have
cut away, I cut all that out of the show engine so people would say, I don't want anybody asking questions about it. So we cut it out.
You'd have to be inviting some specific people. Talk about pay grade. To know that much. Wow, it's just extremely, extremely impressive. So water, was there any discussion about, you know, there's so many heat exchangers on this car. It's like, how do you...
Practically all heat exchangers.
It's like, I remember on E-Ray, it's like, oh, we're splitting this one to be dual purpose because we ran, it's like, I've never even heard of that. Yeah. And is that why part of the water-air equation was, well, I guess you still have to have the air-to-air exchange. How does that loop work?
So on the engine is air-to-water heat exchangers.
Right.
These heat exchangers are on their own separate coolant circuit in the vehicle.
Okay.
So it's a much lower temp.
Right, not connected to engine coolant.
And that's what feeds up to the big ones in the front.
So this is the primary intercooler that's plumbed to the on-engine.
Okay, well, yeah, it's an intercooler. It's like the biggest intercooler I've ever seen.
Yeah, so the water that comes, through this is like remotely cooling the air induction all the way there.
Gotcha.
So it's like
So we're talking about
detached.
plumbing. It's a lot of plumbing.
Right.
It's its own separate circuit though, because it runs at much cooler temperatures.
Right, because on the
Integrated with the rest of the engine.
on the E-Ray, you just did bulk cooling. I remember that. Like all the heat exchangers were interconnected.
And then this portion of this condenser is also plumbed into this circuit.
Huh.
So you can see that that's the T junction or Y junction, whatever you want to call it, right there. So, so a portion of this, what looks like one heat exchanger, is actually two. This portion is into the same intercooler path, and then this top portion is your typical AC condenser.
Gotcha.
You can tell how
air
much we cared
conditioning.
about keeping those inlet temperatures down. When it comes to premium real estate on a car, there's no more premium.
Right.
Front and center, right here.
Yeah.
You get the coolest air, you get the most of it, the highest stagnation pressure, so most airflow. And then to augment it, you could tell how serious we were. We wanted that inlet charge to be as cool as we could make it.
So, sorry, I don't. Other Corvettes, do they have a center radiator? They do, right?
06 and E-Ray have a small one.
Small.
Fits under the bumper here.
Okay. So are both these cores intercooler?
One of them's just radiator.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. If you put, I was always curious about that. If you start stacking them up, it's like, well, like one of them is, if it's basically like in series,
These are
one of them's going to
stacked
get.
too. They're stacked on either side.
But if it's charge air, that as compared to coolant temperature, it's not, you know, like soaking it with heat. You must have like one hell of a water pumps, plural, on here.
It's a bunch of spaghetti. This, we actually simplify it a lot when we do these cutaways, because if you saw the real thing, you wouldn't be able to tell what's what,
Hard to
where it's
see.
going.
Yeah. So is there any additional chassis stiffening in this? I mean, as compared to a Z06 or anything?
Nope, not needed.
Yeah.
Because it's just like everything else we do. We had this in mind from the beginning. We knew the weight of it. We knew the.
That must be
like
such
the
a
crash
challenge.
loads.
How do you, I mean, you lay out, you must just be doing simulation and all these design studies. Like, I can't imagine doing that amount of work that's technically preliminary, but is so important to the rest of the program.
It's
That's what we do.
As someone who, I don't do it every day. So I'm just starting to imagine like doing that now, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, you're right. It's a lot of modeling, and what do you put in your model? You don't put the base car and then ignore the rest.
Yeah.
You also have to worry about engineers. Oh, let's be safe. Let's put in worst case assumption after worst case assumption after worst case assumption. Then you end up with this hellaciously over-designed thing.
Right.
That's super expensive, super heavy.
They're putting like, you know, cross members straight through the engine. That torsional rigidity.
Yeah, I think aerodynamics is where it really shows, like aero and body and stuff, like kind of what Tadge is saying. But we were developing basically this car at the same time as the 2020 car, aerodynamically. So it's we kind of have the whole family being holistically developed.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, of course, from the media's perspective, we just see these things one at a time. And every time it's fastest Corvette ever. It's like, all right.
Right. We had to be careful because we've been working on this for 6 years. Had to keep our mouth shut. And
Yeah,
so-
I
and then
can
we're
only
still working
imagine.
on stuff in the future, so we have to be careful just to keep our focus on today.
In a previous life, I used to do industrial design and product design, and it was like, you know, you get really excited about it like the first couple months, and then by the time you present it, it's like you're just forgetting all the important details.
Right,
And then it's like, wait. It's like, oh, right, we should have told them that. That was so cool.
Yeah.
So is this coolant hose is this a low temperature? Is this, or is it
I have
a?
to trace it. I'd have to load CAD.
You didn't color code the cutaway? Are you kidding me?
That is.
That's a good
I-
idea.
We should have, yeah, that's a good idea. I
Red
think that's
and
part
blue
of the
lines and
height.
with a label on them.
I think that's just engine cooling. I think it's this circuit, but the other side of it, if I can see it.
I was going to say, because it looks like it's avoiding something. It could be a shared thing with the E-Ray.
We try to use as common parts as, reuse parts as much as possible.
Right.
So there will be times where you see a convoluted route that, why did you plumb it like that? That was weird.
Yeah.
Got extra bend in it.
Yeah. It's like an unmilled coolant path. It's like, why is that there?
Yep.
I'm always amazed by was it like a controversial thing to go to this plastic front floor area? Because when someone gets up, do you think that they're putting weight on that, or is it strong enough to support a person's weight?
Oh, it's strong.
Yeah. Very strong. It used to be balsa wood cord for a long time.
Oh, really?
C5 and C6. Crash requirements have changed over time. And so you can see this, we've got this doubler here. There's side pole now, so they're crash. So these are actual, those are at an angle because that's the way the car slides into the pole. It's reacting the loads across to the tunnel.
Wow. Every time I talk to you guys, like, man, these guys are pretty smart, huh? It's like, you know, I talk to a lot of automotive engineers, and maybe it's just the level of detail that you guys go into, maybe it's the way you explain it, but it's like you'll present a problem and then your solution, and it's like, man.
Starts at the top. I'll shamelessly say that it's all the Corvette leadership, including this guy, who drills that into us. Thank you, Tadge.
Thank you, that was pretty good.
I don't think I'll even have time to promote you either. I mean, it's just, that was genuine. So the transmission, I remember you were saying, or Josh, last time at E-Ray, you were saying you took like, to keep the wheelbase short, it's like every millimeter you could to get those half shafts forward. And you're talking about widening these gears to take this torque. Was that a huge challenge? Was it always from the beginning?
You know, we had ideas about how much torque when you have to react to this thing, and it's the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Do you put the absolute best case scenario in, or do you educated guess? Yeah. So, and there's, you know, you have to, sometimes you turn out wrong, and you have to adjust on the fly. Do some things differently.
Is this the widest tire ever fitted to a Corvette?
It's the same size, 345s.
As a Z06.
E-Ray and Z06.
Gotcha.
No,
Just a cup tire.
just a cup tire.
Wow.
It's a cheap fitment, you know. We had to go corner somewhere, couldn't afford tread.
They had these, you know. You're right.
Actually, we did have to tweak these.
You know, they say the less tread you put on a tire, though it's cheaper, right? They save money more without cutting into it.
That was the joke I must just
Yeah,
made.
right.
It's not. It's more rubber.
Took me a minute.
But
Rubber
we
is
tried
cheap.
we wanted these to be common for CO6, ZR1, and E-Ray, which has a different weight distribution,
Right.
different driving characteristics. Not the cups, but the PS4S. So we had, that's another example of having to develop tires on cars that don't exist yet.
Right.
So for like these tires, we built a Mule, a hot rodded Stingray actually, with an LT5 in it, a hot rod LT5, 850 horsepower with a sequential shift gearbox in it to do tire development.
LT5 was the engine.
That's the C7
C7
ZR1.
ZR1.
We stuck one of those in the back.
So you had to make, well, I guess
We had to cobble up a super high horsepower, high torque car.
like, that doesn't sound simple to me at all.
It didn't take long for us to convince ourselves, convincing leadership, we need to go build this hot rod. Oh, we got to do this.
pulley on the supercharger, and it used to just eat belts.
Trust me, we need the small pulley. We need the,
We need at least 850 horsepower. Of course you do.
yeah, only 850, huh? That's as close as you get in the Mule.
Yeah. That's about it, right?
Man, that must have been,
It was about 850, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, it's too slow.
yeah, right, you're leaving 200 horsepower on the
epic at the
table.
time.
I mean, wow, that's some of the other mules that, you know, you go to Milford and you see all these cars, like, what is that? And then no one will tell you, what is that? No, I've seen that, what is that? They're like, they tape up your camera. It's like, no, I've seen that, I swear. So you said the spring rates are actually a little bit softer than the Z06.
Ride frequency. Spring rates themselves.
Rates are
the same.
Yeah, for this car, it's the same as
Okay.
the cup version of the Z06.
Okay, gotcha.
But there's a little more mass, so the ride frequencies are much.
Okay, I understand it.
Spring rates of the standard car are lower on that than the standard Z06.
Okay, interesting.
And ride frequencies are lower.
Yeah, I was impressed with the Z06's ride. That was in Pittsburgh, which is known for their road quality, actually.
Well, you'll find the base ZR1 pretty compliant.
I mean, the Magna ride just like...
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's...
all we can do, and it keeps getting better and better as the software gets better and better.
And like Tadge said, it was kind of a strategic thing, right? That we wanted that car to be a little more compliant.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be the track weapon. The Z06 is more intentionally a track car, even in that trim.
Yeah. And I'm guessing this has a dual mode exhaust like any other Corvette would have, is that correct?
Yeah, it's slow.
It's not dual mode, but it's variable.
Right, okay.
Yeah, dual mode is lowbrow.
That's not how you sell cars. I'm learning so much. Got that lesson there. All right. Dual mode. Got it. Don't say dual mode. Remember when I was at E-Ray, I said Prius, and you looked at me like, get out of here.
I never got over that.
I was like, all right, okay, don't say Prius. All right, got that one. I remember that.
Well, people didn't want us to say hybrid because hybrids are associated with cars like a Prius.
Right.
It's a different kind of hybrid. It's a performance hybrid.
You'd be surprised how many people like still don't get that. Like, there's been a lot of performance hybrid, like P1 LaFerrari, Porsche 918. It's like those are hybrids. People are like, what are we talking about? It's like
just so low volume, up echelon.
yeah, I guess. But I mean, this 10 years later, and it's like still people have like a hybrid. That's like, you know, a Prius.
It is a hybrid.
Yeah. Is this air filter and airbox common to the LT6 as well?
I think so. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, it's common in the LT6. Yep.
Looks familiar. Well, no, I'm very, very impressed. I mean, obviously the most impressive part of this is driving it. And
you won't be disappointed. You'll be able to tell that we're not exaggerating.
Oh, was there any trepidation going over 1,000 horsepower like that? I mean,
None
you know,
whatsoever. We crashed
none?
there, just gleeful.
There was a lot of high-fiving going on.
Yeah, I mean, you turned this thing up. I mean, I can imagine, because you have all these cars planned from day one.
Yeah.
But you can only imagine what they're going to be like until you get those first couple prototypes out.
Yeah.
Is that
it's
like
a raggedy start, you know, and then you got to pull the whole car together, polish it. We're still in the process of polishing it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's good enough that we're confident describing to you what it is, but we still have work to do.
Yeah. When you get into that first prototype, is that like exhilarating? Is that a fun experience?
This is crazy. The first time we did it out at Milford on the circle track, we got that. We finally got it close to full power, full boost, because you work your way up to it. Because you got to make sure you're happy with all the hardware. You don't just immediately just bam. So it takes a while to be confident in the hardware, the car, everything, and then you can finally let it go full tilt. And it was.
Do you like draw straws to decide who's going to get 20 psi? Or did
You don't get the same. Who gets an invite though? That's a different story.
We did have a mule that went out and did some track development stuff, you know, early learning car that was probably making 725 horsepower or something like that, pretty conservative. And even that was pretty alarming of how big of a, just the potential of what the car was going to turn into. We kept dialing it up and dialing it up.
Yeah, that's almost like torture.
Right.
It's like this thing is, what is it, running 6 pounds? You're like, are you serious?
Now I mean, obviously we wanted as much power as we could get, but then that meant the chassis had to come to the table as well, so we were kind of developing in parallel to make sure that the car could handle it. We don't want a car that's difficult to drive, just makes a lot of power, but it's hard to drive.
Yeah. How quickly did Supercharger go out the window? Instantly?
It was never in the house.
No? Never in the house?
Just like it was going to be flat plane crank. It was going to be turbocharged day one. Move on.
Wow.
I did have a long time to figure it out. Like all that stuff. I was talking about how close coupled everything, the package is.
Right.
It looks simple when it's done, but at the beginning, it's nothing simple about it.
Yeah.
It's been many years to get where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's only the second turbocharged V8 you guys have ever done. I mean, not to put your experience down or anything, but
It's only the second mid-engine car we've ever done.
it's true.
Fiero
Did you ever, have you ever seen the Fiero like sales? It's like unbelievable. There was like, you sold like 500,000 of those cars in like 4 years.
It was 100 and something the first. I bought an 84. It was 100 and something the first year.
I was like, you compare that to now with sports car sales, and the Corvette is like the most, like the volume seller, like 50,000 a year. And
The market share.
to compare, to be fair, it's like the price is much higher and whatnot. But even with like sports cars like GR86 or Miata, even, it's like, how many Fieros did they sell? It's like unfathomable.
It is.
Even with sedans too, it's like, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's all my questions for you.
Okay, well, thanks. So good questions.
Oh, good. Always try.